Good afternoon. It's a privilege and honor for us to have here Honorable Dr. Bertie Ahern with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the honor of joining us here at the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy in Berlin. Thank you for your keynote speech. It was very interesting. We'd like to ask you a few questions just to see your thoughts and opinions on some salient issues. So the first one would be, do you think that Ireland's accession to the EU was beneficial for Irish national identity?
No, it definitely was. I mean, we're 40 years this year members of the European Union. It was the old European economic market, but it has given great opportunities to Irish people. It's improved the country, it's improved, I think, our openness and our markets and our trade, but it's also done a huge amount for Irish culture. It opened up. There was a fear 40 years ago that our culture would lose and suffer, but now Irish dance, river dance, and Irish music, Irish song is known throughout the world far better and stronger than it ever was. And I think the integration of us all into Europe and mixing of our culture and having more platforms for our culture has helped us, and certainly helped our economy and helped us, notwithstanding the recent international global crisis that affected most parts of the world, but it has been hugely positive for Ireland.
Thank you.
So what is your definition of cultural diplomacy and how has it influenced your work?
Well, I've spent a lot of my life, political life, working on the peace process in Northern Ireland, and because of that working on many other peace processes in different parts of the world. And cultural diplomacy for me is to try and work, listen to people, work with people, try to communicate with people, and to use diplomatic means of trying to eliminate problems where there are problems, but more importantly trying to avoid the creation of problems, trying to avoid conflicts. And cultural diplomacy for me and for those who have worked with me has been very much to try to bring people together, to stop conflict, to stop war, to stop killing, and of course even where that doesn't happen, to try to get people to understand each other. And cultural diplomacy can do that very well, and I think we're living examples of that, of how we did it in the Good Friday Agreement. And the terms of the Good Friday Agreement are about togetherness, about cooperation and tolerance and respect, about parity of esteem, and all these things I think are good cultural diplomacy.
We all know that cultural diplomacy has been only established in recent decades. Do you think that cultural diplomacy could be the diplomacy of the future? If so, in what ways do you believe countries could benefit from this kind of diplomacy?
Yes, I mean, I think the concept of cultural diplomacy, as I said in my address to this conference, was there in previous times, but it was used as kind of a way of counteracting ideologies and trying to political systems. That isn't the positive version. I think the positive version that we have now is the right one, and I've no doubt that bringing people together and using diplomacy and mixing traditional culture and the arts and with writers, musicians, with political issues and political concepts is definitely a good thing, and it can bring people together and it can break down barriers. Not easy, but with perseverance and determination, and I think education programs, exchange programs, it can be done, and it can be successfully done for the generations ahead.
Do you feel that the Irish national identity is threatened by the European crisis?
Well, I think what happens always is when you have more integration, you do pool your sovereignty. Some people argue that you don't give any of your sovereignty, but you can integrate at the same time. But I don't think that's possible. I think when you bring things together, you are pooling your ways with some other ways, and I think that's certainly the same with Europe and European crisis. There is more integration. Only these days we're listening to about more banking integration, and every month there's some other third one. So I think you are pooling your sovereignty. That does worry people and concern people, but ultimately I think it's a bit like a league table. I mean, you're there, you're a player, and it's more important to be there and to be participating. You have to keep working on your identity and working on your culture and working on what you stand for and what you believe in, and not get rolled over. But I think from an Irish position, we've done well on that, but we'll have to continue to be vigilant of it. It won't just happen. You have to keep at it, and if you keep at it, it'll work well.
Thank you again for being in the conference, and can you tell us which aspects of the conference so far have you found most useful?
I think we spent a lot of time on the advisory meetings, talking about issues, worldwide issues, and I think the good thing about that was, you've Australians, you've Asians, you've Americans, you've lots of Europeans, and it's that fusion of ideas, not agreeing. You don't agree, but in any debate, and people are saying we're going to do it this way or that way, but I think we've done it successfully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.